Welcome to week number 4, and good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're viewing this. We're excited to get into food and beverage operations, and this is going to start several weeks of focus on food and beverage. It is a large component in the hospitality industry. This week, we're going to focus on food and beverage operations in hotels. We'll follow that up with beverage, restaurant business, and then restaurant operations. So focusing on the different components that make up that particular part of the umbrella, which is the hospitality industry. So I have on the screen here one of the modules, which is thinking about how food and beverage is organized in a hotel. And this is kind of a sample. Similar to rooms division, we'll look at like a standard size hotel. However, I do want to caution that different sizes of hotels, different types of hotels have different operations. Something in a select service hotel, like a Courtyard, or another kind of limited stay, limited services hotel might not have an executive chef because their food and beverage offerings are not as big. But in resorts and other larger convention hotels, luxury hotels, they'll probably have some version similar to what you see on the screen, which is a food and beverage director. Someone leading the culinary efforts, usually an executive chef and sous chef, a variety of other titles as well. I do want to point out the chief steward, which oftentimes falls underneath that culinary umbrella. The stewarding department is a very important department, often overlooked. When I ask students what they think stewarding is, they're not really sure. This is the area of the business that focuses on the cleanliness of the dishes and the kitchen areas, which is super important when you think about health inspections and all of the different ways that contamination can spread, and how important it is for dishwashers to be maintained at the proper degree, have the proper titration of chemicals to make sure that everything is sanitary. Moving from left to right, you'll have event operations, sometimes called banquet operations or catering operations. These are the larger scale pieces of business that happen in some of the ballroom spaces in our hotels. So we have that. Moving next over to the event planning area, and this is where those larger groups are planned. So event planning we'll talk about later on in the semester because it does have a lot of different components to it as well. But it does fall under the food and beverage umbrella in a hotel setting when you're thinking about food and beverage. And then restaurants. Sometimes they're called food and beverage outlets, sometimes they're called venues, and this can vary greatly. A smaller hotel might just have one food and beverage outlet, and then your larger resorts, thinking about like the big places in Las Vegas, they might have 5 to 10 to even 15, 20 different food and beverage outlets. So those are most commonly, a restaurant. It could be a 3-meal-a-day restaurant. It could be a coffee shop. It could be a fine dining restaurant, but any different kind of restaurant. And then you have room service, sometimes called in-room dining. You could have a bar in the hotel, and then as well as a coffee kiosk, Starbucks, Illy Coffee, Phil's Coffee, any of those coffee brands. So that's going to be what we're going to focus on this week, is thinking about all of the different areas in food and beverage operations in a hotel. And we'll go into more detail in the coming weeks as we think about freestanding restaurants, which do have a lot of similarities with the food and beverage hotel operations. So I hope you enjoy this week. And I also want to point out one of our upcoming assignments is going to be, I've teased it so that you can see it and start preparing for it. But it's going to be called the food and beverage assignment. And it's going to be due in a couple of weeks. And so I do want to highlight it for you because you are going to be thinking about what you're learning in chapters 4 through 7 in order to highlight a particular food and beverage restaurant. thinking about the concept of the restaurant location, the menu, the ambiance, and the classification. Most of this we'll learn in the coming weeks, but I did want you to start thinking about this particular activity. And that's why I've put it in the list for this week, but it's not due this week. It's just, so that you have a framework for what you can focus on as we work through chapters 4 through 7 in weeks 4 through 7 coming up. So I hope you have a great week ahead, and please don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.